listening to the WrestleHavoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on episode 28 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Friday, January 26th, 2024. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on the show, man. A lot, and I mean a lot of news regarding Vince McMahon has surfaced via the Wall Street Journal. We're going to be talking about the new television deal for Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw has a brand new home. They are going to be moving to the Netflix streaming service. Yes, Monday Night Raw, beginning January of 2025, they will be moving to the Netflix streaming service. So we're going to be talking about that. The deal is worth $5 billion, $500 million per year, but the whole deal is worth $5 billion. We're going to be talking about the Royal Rumble as well. We're going to be talking about The Rock, Kazuchika, Okada. We're going to be talking about Kevin Patrick, who was released from the WWE as well. But the majority of this whole show, we are going to be talking about Vince McMahon. That is the biggest story coming out this week in the realm of professional wrestling. The Wall Street Journal broke news that Vince McMahon has been accused of sex trafficking by a WWE staffer he paid to keep quiet. It is a major story, and a very disturbing major story. So we're going to be talking about all that about Vince McMahon and much more right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Before we get on with all this craziness going on in the realm of professional wrestling, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, 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 and ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also follow me on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The links will be in the description below. Now, as I was prepping for this podcast, originally I wanted to upload this on Thursday, but then the Vince McMahon news broke and it completely changed my plans for what I wanted to do for this podcast. Number one, this is my third time filming this entire show. I filmed this twice before. The first time, after I finished filming the entire video, I went straight to bed. I was planning on uploading it this morning, but what happened was I was looking at the video quality of the video, and the video quality looked absolutely atrocious. It was pure laggetry. There was a lot of lags left and right. It was insane, and it looked absolutely horrible. All you could hear is the audio. Everything was frozen left and right. So I didn't want to upload a half-assed video. Then I tried to film it a second time, and my computer froze on me in the middle of me filming this whole podcast. So this is literally the third time I am filming this podcast. But you know what? I want to give you guys the best quality content that I could possibly give you. And the fact that, the first time I finished and I thought I put out a good show, it literally just blacked out and just looked absolutely atrocious with all the lag going on. So, and there's still lag going on this video, but still, I want to give you guys the best quality show that I could possibly give you. So hopefully everything is all set in stone right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. The Vince McMahon stuff is absolutely ridiculous. Of course, we got the Royal Rumble happening. The Royal Rumble is going to be tomorrow, and I'm going to be giving you guys my preview and predictions for the Royal Rumble. We're also going to be talking about Mercedes briefly, because Mercedes is in the news as well. I mean, if there was any week that was full of action-packed, I don't want to say action-packed, that's actually quite a ridiculous word to say, but if there was any week that involved a shit ton of news, this week was really the week that involved a shit ton of news. I mean, the Netflix deal, The Rock being a part of TKO's board of directors, that was a big story, and now he owns the name The Rock. The Vince McMahon story literally overshadowed everything. And it's a lot of controversy left and right, man. Out of all the days that the Wall Street Journal broke this story, they broke this story now on days after they announced the $5 billion Netflix deal and The Rock being being a part of the board of directors. And the thing about that was when they announced The Rock and they announced the Netflix deal, the stock price went up. I would assume that the stock price would go down based off of all of this Vince McMahon news. Not only that, this Vince McMahon news is so damaging to not only WWE but TKO, to the point where Slim Jim, one of their sponsors for the Royal Rumble, actually pulled out for the Royal Rumble. So that is a big negative in terms of the business of TKO. And it's safe to say that as long as they have Vince McMahon around, it's going to be all hell is just going to break loose, and not in a good way. So if anything, what TKO needs to do is remove Vince McMahon permanently, because Vince McMahon has no business. I don't care what anybody says. He has absolutely no business being a part of TKO in any way, shape, or form. But we're going to start off with the WrestleHavoc podcast. Of course, it is Friday, January 26th, 2024. We're going to start off this long show. This is going to be a big show. A lot of things to cover right here on the show. But we're going to start off with the main topic, and that is Vince McMahon. The Wall Street Journal strikes again, and not in a good way in terms of Vince McMahon. I mean, the Wall Street Journal, every time when they talk about Vince McMahon, it's never good, and it just got worse as soon as this story broke. Vince McMahon, according to the Wall Street Journal, is accused of sex trafficking by a WWE staffer he paid to keep quiet. Yes, Vince McMahon accused of sex trafficking by a WWE staffer he paid to keep quiet. That is the title of the entire Wall Street Journal article. Janelle Grant files a lawsuit saying McMahon pressured her into sex with him and other men at the wrestling business, raising questions about the 2022 probe into the CEO's payouts. So, yeah, that was basically the title of the entire Wall Street Journal article. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be basically reading you guys the entire article. Now, the complaint is attached to the actual Wall Street Journal article. That entire complaint is 67 pages. I urge you guys to go read those 67 pages. I'm not going to read the entire 67 pages. I'm going to read you guys the entire article. The entire article basically gives you a gist of everything that is going on in terms of the allegations on Vince McMahon. And also, another thing, a big disclaimer, and I mean this, a big disclaimer. What I'm going to be reading to you guys, there's going to be moments where some of the information that you guys are going to be hearing is very disturbing. So I urge you guys, if you guys in any way, shape, or form feel uncomfortable with the stuff that I'm about to read to you guys right here on the podcast, I urge you guys to click off this video or click off this podcast. Seriously, because I do not want any of my viewers to feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, because some of the information that you guys are going to be hearing right here on the show is very disgusting and very disturbing on all levels. So I urge you guys, if you guys feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form with the stuff that you guys are going to be hearing, I urge you guys please to click off this video. But we're going to be starting off with the Wall Street Journal article. A woman who received a payout from WWE boss Vince McMahon has accused McMahon, the company, and a former executive of sex trafficking in a new lawsuit that raises questions about the breadth of an internal company probe conducted by a law firm last year. Janelle Grant, a former employee at the WWE, or at the wrestling firm's headquarters, I should say, said in a lawsuit filed Thursday that she was abused and sexually exploited by McMahon while he was a chief executive. She alleged that McMahon lured her with promises of career advancement, and then he allegedly exploited her and trafficked her to other men inside the company. Grant signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, in 2022 in which McMahon agreed to pay $3 million for her not to discuss their relationship or disparage him. The WWE received an anonymous tip in 2022 about the relationship and started a board investigation, which uncovered other payments by the CEO to women. Grant's lawsuit said McMahon stopped making payments under the 2022 deal after the initial $1 million installment. The suit seeks to void the agreement and unspecified financial damages. In a quote by a spokesman of Vince McMahon, this lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and a vindictive distortion of the truth, a spokesman for McMahon said. He will vigorously defend himself. Vigorously defend himself. I love the words that were chosen for by the spokesman for Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon has that big of an ego that he's not going to deny, he's going to deny everything. He's going to deny everything because Vince McMahon has that big of an ego. It's really embarrassing if you really think about it. But continuing on with this Wall Street Journal article, TKO Group, an entertainment giant that was recently formed by the merger of WWE and the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, the Mixed Martial Arts League, said in a statement, and I quote, "While this matter predates our TKO executive team's tenure at the company, we take Ms. Grant's horrific allegations very seriously and are addressing this matter internally," as they should be. Because, again, TKO is a publicly traded company. They look out, they always look out of their best interests for the company. And, with Vince McMahon being involved, if Vince McMahon is still a part of TKO, as he still is, as at this point, at this stage of the game, he's still a part of TKO. With this statement that TKO made, I assume 100% that they are looking deep into this matter, because the longer they keep Vince McMahon around, the more sponsors are going to pull out. I mean, Slim Jim just pulled out of the Royal Rumble. We're going to be talking about that later on, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of ramifications after TKO, going TKO's way, the longer they keep Vince McMahon around. So yeah, they should be looking into this matter. Jerry McDivitt, McMahon's attorney, who at the time said in 2022 that the women whose name wasn't yet public hadn't made any allegations of harassment. In a statement when the Wall Street Journal first reported on McMahon's $3 million settlement, WWE said that the relationship was consensual and that it was taken seriously the allegations McMahon had engaged in misconduct. McMahon briefly retired from WWE in July of 2022 following reporting by the Journal that revealed payouts to multiple women who had allegedly sexual misconduct. The Journal reported that the board's independent directors had retained the law firm Simpson Thacher and Bartlett to conduct an investigation. Simpson Thacher's investigation found $14.6 million in payments by the CEO to women who had accused him of sexual misconduct that should have been booked as business expenses. In November of 2022, WWE said that the board investigation was completed and the company restated past security filings. McMahon repaid the company for the cost of the investigation and returned soon thereafter. That was when he forced himself back into the company early 2023. When nobody wanted Vince McMahon around, Vince McMahon was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. This is my company. I'm going to come back. And that tended to bite Vince McMahon in the ass the longer, time went on. The lawsuit complicates the legal picture around 78-year-old McMahon. Federal prosecutors have been investigating the payouts, and in July of 2023, agents executed a search warrant for McMahon's phone and served him with a grand jury subpoena. No charges have been brought. In a quote by Vince McMahon, he stated, and I quote, "Throughout this experience, I have always denied any intentional wrongdoing and continue to do so." Yeah, right, then why the hell were NDAs signed? The moment you sign NDAs, clearly you are guilty of something, in my opinion. McMahon said in a 2023 about the federal probe. Continuing on with the quote, he stated, and I quote, "I am confident that the government's investigation will be resolved without any findings of wrongdoing." That was a quote by Vince McMahon. Again, the ego of Vince McMahon. The absolute ego of Vince McMahon, man. This guy, will deny left and right that these situations hadn't happened. But we all know, even though in the United States it is innocent until proven guilty, there's just a lot of proof that Vince McMahon has done all of these horrific things. Let's be honest with ourselves. Continuing on with the Wall Street Journal article. The lawsuit filed in a Connecticut federal court describes in graphic detail Grant's account of interactions with the businessman and television personality. She alleged that McMahon and another WWE executive locked her in an office in WWE's headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut on June 15th, 2021, and took turns sexually assaulting her while other staff were working. Now, this is when the article starts to get a little bit graphic in detail with the stuff that they are going to be talking about. So once again, if you feel uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, please, I urge you guys to click off this video. In the middle of another workday, on June 23rd, 2021, McMahon locked Grant inside his private locker room at WWE offices and forced himself on her over a massage table, the suit said. Later that day, McMahon's personal assistant delivered $15,000 in Bloomingdale's gift cards to Grant in her office. The suit also includes screenshots of explicit text messages. And by the way, if you look at the court documents and the statement, on the 67-page court documents. I'm not gonna lie, the text messages are absolutely horrific. You know, if you guys read the text messages, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I read the text messages, and the language that is used by Vince McMahon is very, very, very just horrific on all levels, in my opinion. It's very just disgusting. Very disgusting. I'm not going to read you guys the text messages. Go on social media. If you guys are subscribed to the Wall Street Journal, go subscribe to the Wall Street Journal and read those text messages, because again, it is very, very, very disgusting. I'm not going to read those text messages because it is just very messed up. But in a May 2020 message says, and I quote, and this is the only thing that I'm going to be reading that shows on the article: "I'm the only one who owns you and controls who I want to F you." That was a quote in one of the text messages. This was in May of 2020. Grant alleged that McMahon shared nude photos and explicit photos of her without consent with other WWE employees, named executives and stars, and directed her to have sex with them. The suit cited a July 2020 text that said others at WWE wanted to have sex with her after seeing photos on McMahon's phone, and the group laughed when he told them, in a quote, "She may scream and try to say no, although it would be difficult to say anything with a C word down her throat." That right there is just messed up right there. That's just messed up. Absolutely messed up. Grant alleged the board investigation was a quote-unquote sham. She wasn't interviewed by the board's special committee, and it didn't request documents even though she said she would cooperate, the lawsuit said. It alleged that the company diverted attention away from McMahon's abuse by focusing on the accounting for the payments. Others at WWE knew about McMahon's misconduct but worked to conceal the wrongdoing, according to the suit. Jeff Speed, a former WWE board member who co-led the board's investigation, said Thursday that he remained confident in the investigation, which included outreach to Grant and engagement with her lawyer. He highlighted that McMahon left the company during the investigation. In a quote by Jeff Speed, he stated, and I quote, "While recognizing the horrific nature of the allegations in today's lawsuit, I'm not at the liberty to comment on what was and was not learned during our investigation," Speed said in a statement. McMahon, who was the controlling shareholder of WWE, returned to WWE in early 2023, and he elected himself to the board and replaced several directors. Upon his return, he negotiated the sale of WWE to Endeavor Group, who were the owners of the UFC. The deal created TKO Group and gave WWE an enterprise value of $9.3 billion. Of course, I'm going to stop right there. I talked about this, and a lot of other content creators talked about this, and this is a very true. There's only one major reason as to why WWE, or I should say Vince McMahon, sold the majority stake of the company to Endeavor. The reason why he did that was because he wanted to have power and control of the company. He even though the company was doing mega business regarding WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, during that period of time, and they are still doing mega business. They are hotter than ever at this stage of the game. The reason why Vince McMahon sold to Endeavor is because of the fact that he wanted power, and that was it. He did not care about the well-being of the company. He cared about his own power. That was why he sold the company to Endeavor. That's the only reason why. And now, from what it looks like right now, even though Vince McMahon has a minor role in WWE and in TKO, it looks like it's going to bite Vince McMahon in the ass. Now, in a statement, or not in a statement, continuing on with the article, McMahon is now the executive chairman and a major shareholder of TKO. This week, Netflix bought the rights to WWE Raw and other WWE shows in a deal valued at more than $5 billion, which we will be talking about later on this show. McMahon celebrated by ringing the opening bell with other TKO executives at the New York Stock Exchange, and that was when The Rock was a part of the board of directors. When they announced that The Rock was going to be a part of the board of directors of TKO, The Rock was there as well. In its statement, TKO said that McMahon doesn't control TKO, nor does he oversee the day-to-day operations of the WWE. Shares of TKO slipped less than 1% in Thursday's trading. Ann Callis, a lawyer for Grant, said the WWE was well aware of McMahon's quote-unquote history of depraved behavior, and it's time that they take responsibility for the misconduct of their leadership. She said her client hopes that the lawsuit, quote-unquote, will prevent other women from being victimized. Continuing on with the Wall Street Journal article, Grant's lawsuit alleged that she met McMahon in March of 2019 through an introduction from a manager in her apartment building. McMahon lived in a penthouse of the same building, and Grant was looking for a job after her parents had died. When they met, McMahon allegedly made promises of a job at WWE and showered Grant with gifts. During meetings that they were supposed to be about the job, she greeted her in his underwear and repeatedly asked for hugs. Then the suit said he pressured her into sexual activities in return for employment and warned her to stay quiet about their interactions. That is just disgusting. Really disgusting. That is not far off from what Harvey Weinstein would do when he was doing, his, disgusting acts, because, the comparisons of Vince McMahon and Harvey Weinstein are not far off. That is something exactly Harvey Weinstein would do. The similarities between Vince McMahon and Harvey Weinstein are there's barely any difference. It's basically the same thing. People in power take advantage of that power, and they hurt other people. They hurt other people, and that is exactly what Vince McMahon had done. Continuing on, Grant began working in June of 2019 as an administrator coordinator, a position McMahon created for her in WWE's legal department. She said she expressed concerns that the job felt unearned, but McMahon told her that all she needed to do was not tell anyone, and that, quote-unquote, it just has to look legit. Colleagues complained about overflowing inboxes, but Grant had little work. Meanwhile, McMahon allegedly sent her sexually explicit messages, and his sexual demands increased. He forcefully used toys on her, including dildos he named after WWE wrestlers, causing her bruising and bleeding, the suit said. Grant alleged that she complained to McMahon and made attempts to end the relationship. In March of 2020, McMahon began sharing sexually explicit photographs and videos of Grant with other men, including other WWE executives and a former UFC heavyweight champion with whom WWE was actively trying to sign a new contract, according to the suit. In a May 2020 encounter, McMahon defecated on her head during a threesome, the suit said. The former UFC heavyweight champion, a lot of speculation, and later on in the article, the Wall Street Journal stated that the speculation on who that former UFC heavyweight champion was is Brock Lesnar. Now, we do not know if Brock Lesnar was involved in this, but if it is a former UFC heavyweight champion, who on that roster was a former UFC heavyweight champion? It was Brock Lesnar. Her mental and physical health deteriorated so badly that McMahon sent her in November to a celebrity doctor for sessions at an alternative clinic where she never received any receipts or bills. McMahon also paid $20,000 to a surgeon on her behalf, the suit said. McMahon recruited people to have sex with Grant as well, including WWE's former head of talent relations, John Laurinaitis, who was named as a defendant in the suit. John Laurinaitis, another scumbag who was a part of the original accusations that led to Vince McMahon's downfall. The less we hear of John Laurinaitis, the better, but clearly we are hearing more of John Laurinaitis, and we're hearing more of his disgusting acts. McMahon directed her to visit Laurinaitis' at his hotel rooms where she had sex with Laurinaitis prior to the start of the workdays, the suit alleged. In a quote by Grant, she stated, and I quote, "I've left that hotel feeling bad about myself every time," Grant told McMahon. In May of 2021, McMahon allegedly told Grant that her presence in the legal department was holding up the hiring of a new general counsel for the company, and thus transferred her to the talent relations department, reporting to Laurinaitis. McMahon and Laurinaitis started her in a lower-level position but promised that she would soon be promoted to vice president, the suit said. McMahon controlled her professional and personal lives and subjected her to degradation, according to the suit. In June of 2021, encounter inside the WWE office, the suit said McMahon and Laurinaitis forced themselves on her and took turns at restraining her for the other while saying, this is just, this next line right here is just disgusting. Quote unquote, no means yes and take it B word or bitch, which again, that is just absolutely disturbing. Laurinaitis, a former wrestler known as Johnny Ace and a longtime WWE executive, left the company in 2022. Laurinaitis hasn't publicly commented on his departure. Laurinaitis didn't respond Thursday to requests for comment. Continuing on, in July of 2021, the suit said McMahon instructed Grant to create personalized sexual content for a WWE superstar he was trying to re-sign. The suit didn't name the professional wrestler, but described him as both a UFC fighter and a WWE talent. People familiar with the matter identified the wrestler as Brock Lesnar, one of WWE's biggest names. Lesnar didn't respond to Thursday to requests for comment. Now, that is very weird. Now, it's not confirmed that Brock Lesnar was a part of this whole thing, but you know what's interesting? If you look back at history, if you guys do not recall, I believe Vince McMahon announced his retirement on a Friday 2 years ago. And it was on a Friday where they had SmackDown, and that was, of course, when it came to the allegations, Vince McMahon, would appear on SmackDown and just kind of constantly gloat in front of the live audience about how great WWE is. And in the weeks leading up, on that Friday, he announced that he was going to be retiring from the WWE. And if you guys do not recall, I believe it was that Friday where Stephanie McMahon went to the ring and she started those thank you Vince chants, an announcement of Vince McMahon's retirement. And I believe there was a story that Brock Lesnar was backstage and he threatened to walk out of WWE. Now, if the whole story of Brock Lesnar, if Brock Lesnar is involved, I'm not saying he is, but we do not know. But they did describe him as a former UFC heavyweight champion. Who in that roster is a former UFC champion? Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar threatened to walk out of WWE 2 years ago. Now it starts to make sense. That's just pure speculation on mine and a lot of other people's end. People were stating the same thing, but who knows? Continuing on with the story. The suit said that McMahon shared explicit photos with the star and informed Grant that he, quote-unquote, he likes what he sees. After the star agreed to a new WWE contract, McMahon texted Grant in August of 2021 to say, quote-unquote, the part of the deal was to F you. That December, McMahon gave Grant's personal cell phone number to the WWE star, the lawsuit said. The wrestler asked her to send a video of herself urinating, and after she did, he called her a B-word. That same month, the suit said the star expressed a desire to, quote-unquote, set a play date, but a snowstorm disrupted his travel plans. Continuing on, after Grant signed the NDA, McMahon continued the abuse, according to the suit. It alleged that he forced Grant to perform oral sex on him the time that they met, and they attempted to traffic her to the WWE star in March of 2022. She texted the star explicit photos as directed by McMahon, but they didn't meet, the suit said. The lawsuit seeks a judgment that the NDA is invalid under state and federal law and the compensatory and punitive damages under other laws, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And that was the entire Wall Street Journal article that broke yesterday about Vince McMahon. I do not know what to think about this whole thing. A part of me doesn't seem surprised about this whole thing because Vince McMahon, in my eyes, after watching wrestling for 10 plus years, it's very hard to see the differences between the Mr. McMahon character and Vince McMahon, the person. There's not much, differences regarding those two men. You would think there'd be major differences considering wrestling is a predetermined outcome and it's a scripted television show. But really, wrestling does love to blur the lines. But Vince McMahon, the Vince McMahon character that we see on television or that we saw on television all those years is very similar to Vince McMahon the person by the stuff that I was reading to you guys via the Wall Street Journal. What are my thoughts on this whole thing? There's only one outcome of this whole situation and one outcome only. Vince McMahon should be removed in any way, shape, or form from TKO. Period. That is it. He should be removed from TKO. Period. Because this whole thing that came out about Vince McMahon is very disturbing and disgusting. It is very horrific. You can use the word disgusting. You can use the word disturbing, but it is horrific. It is horrific that a guy, 78 years old, Vince McMahon, a guy who a couple years ago were doing these very disturbing acts to this poor woman in 2019, 2020, 2021, a guy in the position that he is basically abusing his power. And he's not the only one to do that type of stuff. A lot of people that are in these positions end up abusing their power because they think they are above the law and they can do anything that they want because they are billionaires and they can do whatever they want. And that is just not the way to go about things. Vince McMahon has that big of an ego thinking that he could get away with anything. This is very horrific, and this is very, very just disgusting on all levels. And what's even worse is you have some people defending Vince McMahon, saying, oh, innocent until proven guilty. Well, yeah, I do agree with you. Innocent until proven guilty, yeah. But let's be honest with ourselves. A lot of the information that we're reading about Vince McMahon, I mean, for fuck's sakes, he signed NDAs of all things. If you make somebody sign an NDA, that clearly means you did something wrong. And I tell people this all the time, and this is not just something I'm going to tell the wrestling community, because the wrestling community at the end of the day is very toxic. And the wrestling community, and I'm going to say this as well, the wrestling community is making this whole Vince McMahon thing about WWE and AEW, comparing this to the whole Chris Jericho situation. First off, the Chris Jericho situation, we do not know if it's true or not regarding that. And you could technically say this about Vince McMahon, but we're talking about completely two different people and in two different positions. Vince McMahon is the chairman of the WWE. You know, he there's a lot of stories about Vince McMahon. Chris Jericho, that is just pure internet speculation. And I'm not going to comment a lot on the Chris Jericho thing because some of the stuff we've heard about Chris Jericho is pretty disgusting, but at the same time, it is just pure speculation. We do not know if that is true or not. There's no legitimate lawsuit like we see here with Vince McMahon. They're completely two different situations. But you have people on the internet. Now, I will say this though: if it ends up coming out true that, you know, Chris Jericho did do these horrible acts, which we do not know if he did, then that is a major problem. But again, we do not know if they're true. The Chris Jericho and Vince McMahon thing are completely two different stories. We kind of know Vince McMahon is capable of doing stuff like that because he is Vince fucking McMahon of all people, you know. But the community is so toxic that they're making this about WWE and AEW and caring less about the victim. And that is wrong, in my opinion. You know, I think we should care about the victim and, you know, we should believe the victim because a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing in the text messages that were leaked by the victim in this lawsuit, if you look at the court documents, it is very disturbing. And again, I'm not going to be reading you guys the entire article, but again, the 67-page court documents and the text messages are very disturbing. It's very disturbing. If anything, Vince McMahon should go to jail. I don't care what anybody says. Vince McMahon should go to jail. Vince McMahon, his legacy will forever be tarnished. It was already tarnished 2 years ago when those first few reports by the Wall Street Journal came out about Vince McMahon. You know, his legacy was already tarnished. But now his legacy is going to be even more tarnished. And if anything, now, after this story came out, more people, and if anything, not even more people, everybody is going to look at Vince McMahon in a different light. They are not going to look at Vince McMahon and his accomplishments that he made in making WWE a global empire. Nobody's going to talk about that anymore. For the rest of eternity, when talking about Vince McMahon, nobody is going to talk about how Vince McMahon made WWE into a global entity. No. If anything, everybody now, from now on, for the rest of eternity, everybody is going to be talking about how Vince McMahon, you know, abused his power and made all these women feel uncomfortable with a lot of the stuff that, you know, he has done. And the horrific acts that Vince McMahon done along with people like John Laurinaitis and the WWE / former UFC heavyweight champion that a lot of people are, you know, recognizing as Brock Lesnar. We do not know if it is Brock Lesnar, but, you know, people are saying it's Brock Lesnar. This is embarrassing on all levels. This is embarrassing for TKO. The fact that they, you know, still have Vince McMahon a part of the, you know, TKO in some way, shape, or form is ridiculous. I think they should remove Vince McMahon permanently. And in my opinion, I think Vince McMahon should go to jail. This is just absolutely horrific. And even people who've been supporting like Vince McMahon, like all the WWE loyalists, are starting to look at this and be like, bro, we can't defend this man. We can't defend this man. But it's horrific. It's horrific on all levels. And it got so bad to the point where Slim Jim, according to WrestleVotes, they were hearing rumblings that Slim Jim has notified WWE that they're pulling their sponsorships from tomorrow's Royal Rumble event. It is yet to be determined if they will remain partners in the future. Slim Jim, a major sponsor from WWE, pulled out of the Royal Rumble event. They pulled out of the Royal Rumble event. Slim Jim is one of WWE's biggest sponsors, and they pulled out of the Royal Rumble event after this Vince McMahon story came out. And I guarantee you, more sponsors will start to pull out the more we hear about Vince McMahon and the longer Vince McMahon is involved with TKO. That is just the cold-hearted truth. The longer TKO keeps Vince McMahon, the more sponsors they're going to pull out. Not only that, this is coming on a time where Netflix signed a $5 billion deal with the WWE for the rights to Raw beginning in January of 2025, which we will be talking about later on this show. And at the same time, Netflix is producing a Vince McMahon documentary. They are producing a Vince McMahon documentary. That documentary, I'm not going to lie, is going to be very interesting, especially after all the information that just came out yesterday via the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, this is pretty terrible and pretty disgusting, to say the least. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. But we're just gonna we're gonna have to wait and see what TKO does. I mean, this is just, in my opinion, this is purely a big detriment to the WWE, to the brand itself, and to TKO. Think about this, man. The merger was just completed. The merger was completed, and all of a sudden, this Ari Emanuel has to deal with this once again regarding Vince McMahon. When it comes to Vince McMahon selling to Endeavor, we all know why he sold the WWE to Endeavor. The reason why he sold the WWE to Endeavor was because he wanted to have majority interest still in the company. That is the only reason why he sold it to Endeavor. He didn't sell it to NBC Universal. He didn't sell it to Amazon. He didn't sell it to any other bidder for WWE. He didn't sell it to the Saudis. He sold it to Endeavor mainly because of the fact that he still wanted to be involved with the company. And now it's starting to bite Vince McMahon in the ass after all this information that has come out, and rightfully so. Vince McMahon got himself in this whole situation. TKO needs to act quickly. If they want to protect their business, they need to act quickly. And I guarantee you they are looking deeply into this matter. It is absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. By all means, absolutely horrible. This allegation, the text messages that were leaked, the stories that we heard with John Laurinaitis. I mean, it is disgusting. It is really, really, really disgusting. The absolute ego in this man to really do the acts that he did. It is very, very disgusting. I understand people make mistakes all the time, but the fact that Vince McMahon denies the fact that, the fact that he denies these allegations is just, you can tell the type of person Vince McMahon is, and it's not a good one. Vince McMahon embodies everything of what a horrible human being is. I don't care what Vince McMahon did for wrestling. At this point, WWE is a different company. They don't need Vince McMahon. They never needed Vince McMahon throughout the past couple of years. Let's be honest with ourselves. But Vince McMahon damaged his own reputation. He damaged his own reputation, and it was nobody else's fault. It was not it was not the victim's fault. It was not the Wall Street Journal's fault. It was solely Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon damaged his own reputation. He damaged his own reputation, and it is his fault. And he deserves everything that is coming his way. Everything that is coming this way. I would expect TKO, especially after the Slim Jim deal, after Slim Jim pulled out of WWE in terms of sponsorship, I would assume TKO is going to act quickly. I assume TKO is going to be acting quickly, but those are my thoughts on Vince McMahon and this whole thing. It is I don't want to say a developing story, but I would assume we're probably going to get more information because clearly everybody was speculating that there's going to be more information that comes out about Vince McMahon and more dirt coming out about Vince McMahon. And this was the dirt that came out about Vince McMahon, and it is a very bad dirt. Very bad dirt. So those are my thoughts on the whole Vince McMahon situation. This is, we're going to have to wait and see what TKO does, man. And this is coming, once the Netflix deal happened and everything else. It is just absolutely disgusting on all levels. All right, moving on. We're going to be continuing on to talk about Netflix. Netflix, according to Variety, strike a deal to move Monday Night Raw. to the streamer beginning in 2005, worth $500 million per year. This is according to Variety. In a major shakeup, WWE has struck a deal with Netflix that will see its flagship weekly live pro wrestling show begin airing exclusively on the streaming giant beginning in January of 2025. This will mark the first time in its 3-decade history that Raw has not aired new episodes on a linear television network. The deal is valued at $500 million per year for 10 years, or a whopping $5 billion commitment by the streamer. Netflix has an option to opt out after the initial 5 years and extend for an additional 10 years. Sources say that WWE's current 5-year deal for the U.S. rights to Raw with NBC Universal is approximately $250 to $260 million per year. WWE's current deal with NBC Universal has Raw airing on the USA Network until October of 2024. According to an individual with the knowledge of the situation, exactly where Raw will air between the end of that deal and the beginning of the Netflix deal is still yet to be determined. Under the deal, Netflix will become the exclusive home of Raw in the US, Canada, the UK, Latin America, and other territories once the deal begins, with more countries and regions to be added over time. Netflix will also become the television home for all WWE shows outside, and this is a big deal right here. Netflix will also become the television home for all WWE shows outside the United States. That includes fellow weekly shows SmackDown and NXT, as well as annual live events like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and the Royal Rumble, as well as documentaries and original series and additional projects. The deal is the final step in WWE's latest round of television rights deals. It was previously announced that the rights to SmackDown had been sold to NBC Universal and USA Network in a 5-year, $1.4 billion deal. Not long after, it was announced that NXT would be moving from the USA Network to the CW. A source close to the deal pegged the value to WWE at about $20 million to $25 million a year, also for 5 years. Acquiring the rights to Raw solidifies Netflix's push into live programming, with the streamer having just tested the waters with live streaming as of late. In March of 2023, Netflix debuted its first ever live event with a comedy special, Chris Rock Selective Outrage. They followed up with a live Love is Blind reunion special in April. They have aired multiple live events since, most recently the 30th Screen Actors Guild Awards. But with Raw, Netflix will have live programming that runs weekly year-round. Such a move is a necessity for the trailblazer of the streaming revolution, with multiple competitors already offering regular live sports programs to their subscribers. Amazon, for example, locked the exclusive rights for NFL's Thursday Night Football for 10 years, beginning with the 2023 season. Peacock, NBC Universal's streaming service at a current home to the WWE library content and live events in the U.S., recently racked up 23 million viewers when it aired the NFL playoff game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. So yeah, that's basically the whole gist of the entire deal with Netflix and Monday Night Raw. What are my thoughts on this? I mean, of course, this news is overshadowed by a lot of the Vince McMahon stuff, but overall, what are my thoughts on this whole Netflix deal in terms of Monday Night Raw moving to Netflix beginning in January of 2025? This is a win for WWE. As you guys all know, SmackDown will be moving to the USA Network beginning in October of 2024. And as well as NXT will be moving off the USA Network, and they're going straight to broadcasting. They're going from cable to broadcasting to the CW network, and they're going to be airing NXT beginning in October of 2024. That left Raw on the table, and there were a lot of suitors for Monday Night Raw. You know, there was a lot of speculation on Warner Brothers Discovery potentially, going to, WWE to air the rights to Monday Night Raw. But, I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery is doing a lot of cost cutting. I don't think, Warner Brothers Discovery would be willing to pay that amount of money for WWE, because at the end of the day, WWE is demanding a lot of money. There was Disney / FX. The FX network was in talks with Monday Night Raw. There's a lot of potential suitors for Raw. Amazon was another one. Streaming, in terms of streaming, I think, this is a great deal for the WWE with Raw moving to Netflix. If you really think about it, streaming is starting to become the norm. Cable is starting to die a slow death, and that is just the cold hard fact that people do not understand, but cable is dying. Cable is dying. More and more people are turning to streaming. Streaming is the new cable. Streaming is the new cable with services like Netflix, with services like Amazon, with Hulu, with Max, with all these other services, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. They are moving straight to streaming because, again, they know the reach that streaming has is way more than the current reach that cable television has. If you look at the Raw ratings throughout the years, even the past 10 years, think about this. 10 years ago, Raw was roughly doing around 3 to 4 million viewers. That audience has dropped to roughly around 1.4 million viewers a week for Raw. The reason why that is some people could even say the quality of the show, and I could agree with you, because Vince McMahon was still running the show, but if you look at it from a metric standpoint and you look at it from a number standpoint, really the majority of the reason as to why the numbers dropped is because of the fact that a lot of people are cutting the cord. A lot of people are cutting the cord and are stopping using cable. They're no longer using cable. And that's one of the reasons as to why, the numbers are dropping. And the fact that Raw is going to be going on Netflix, the numbers are going to be astronomical for Raw because the reach that Netflix has is going to be insane. And also, WWE has such a global reach internationally that it's going to be a benefit for the international markets. So what are my thoughts on this deal? I think this is a win-win for WWE. A $5 billion deal. WWE is making bank left and right. Business is peaking, and they're making money left and right with all of these deals. The smart thing, and what the thing is, and I tell people this all the time, WWE is basically going the NFL route with all their individual rights. They have, the Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are no longer just shows. They are franchises. The Raw franchise worth $5 billion. The SmackDown franchise worth $1 billion. The NXT franchise worth roughly around $20 million. Clearly, roughly around there, those are individual franchises. It's very similar to the NFL with Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football. It's very similar in that sense. And it is very smart that WWE has done that because they have built a fan base and a very loyal fan base and a fairly big fan base to really garner the amount of interest that they have on their shows. So, yeah, hats off to WWE when it comes to this new television deal with Monday Night Raw. Now, in terms of AEW, a lot of people were worried about the AEW television deal, whether or not if Warner Brothers Discovery was going to be moving Raw to the TNT network. A lot of people were concerned about AEW, but from what it looks like, the relationship that AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery have is very strong. Andrew Zarian earlier this week on Tuesday stated in a tweet, "Since we're on the topic of television and streaming rights, a source mentioned to me that it is a very possible way for AEW to become a cable/streaming hybrid show, much like how the NBA simulcasts TNT and Max." So if the rumors are true, and we all know the streaming deal with AEW is imminent at this point. It's going to happen. If the rumors are true and if what Andrew Zarian is saying is right, AEW, having Dynamite, Collision, and Rampage not only airing on TNT and TBS, but also becoming simulcasted on the Max streaming service, that is a win for AEW if the rumors are true as well. Because, again, the reach that Max has, they have a shit ton of subscribers. Not as much that Netflix has, but, Max is one of the top streaming services in the world right now. And the reach that Max has is going to be great for the viewership for AEW. Again, cable is dying a slow death, and you are seeing more and more of these sports franchises turning to streaming rather than cable. Because, again, they know streaming has a bigger reach. And with the bigger reach, you're going to garner a larger audience. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the new Monday Night Raw television deal. All right. In quick news, we're going to be talking about The Rock. Yes, The Rock. The Rock is now named as a board member of WWE's parent company, TKO Group, granted full ownership of the Rock trademark. I'm reading this from Variety. Dwayne Johnson has joined the board of directors of TKO Group Holdings Incorporated, a company formed by Endeavor that merged the WWE and the UFC. Johnson, one of the most popular actors and media personalities on the planet, broke out as a star for WWE in the 1990s and then in the early 2000s. He held multiple world championships in his time with the pro wrestling juggernaut and is widely regarded as one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. In a quote by The Rock, he stated, and I quote, I'm thrilled to partner with Dwayne and welcome his immense talent to TKO's board, said Ari Emanuel, the CEO of TKO. Dwayne Johnson brings an incredible track record of creating content and building globally recognized consumer brands, and he will play a key role in realizing our ambitions for TKO. WWE added that he also entered into a services and merchandising agreement with Johnson. Under that agreement, Johnson will provide promotional licensing and other services to the company. Johnson also gains ownership of the trademark name The Rock as part of the intellectual assignment agreement. Overall, I mean, this is great for The Rock. This is absolutely great for The Rock, and I think The Rock, with his name value right now and him being a part of the board of directors in WWE, I think it's a win for TKO. Now you got Triple H as being the head of creative in the WWE, and now The Rock being a part of the board in TKO. I mean, that is absolutely insane, man. The Rock is all about business, and now he owns the intellectual property of the name The Rock, which I believe he was able to use in many of his movies, but he had to cut some sort of deal with the WWE. Now he owns the full name of The Rock, and he struck a deal with the WWE so WWE can use it for merchandising and stuff. That is great. Absolutely great. The Rock, a lot of people I think were concerned about The Rock regarding, his financial status with, the bombing of, the bomb that was Black Adam. I believe it bombed in the box office. And now with The Rock, doing the new football league with the XFL, all that stuff with the merging of the USFL. The Rock is doing a lot of things, and The Rock is 100% successful at what he is doing. So hats off to The Rock. The Rock is now going to be a part of the board of directors in TKO, which is, of course, the parent company of WWE. Moving on, we're going to be talking about another topic that is not really talked about, especially after the Vince McMahon news came out. We're going to be talking about Kevin Patrick, of course, the former, and yes, I use that word, the former lead commentator for Friday Night SmackDown. According to Mike Johnson of PW Insider, Kevin Patrick has been officially released by the WWE. The WWE announcer Kevin Patrick has been officially released by WWE, PW Insider can confirm. As we reported earlier this week, Patrick was removed from his role as the lead announcer on Friday Night SmackDown. Patrick has been with the WWE from March of 2021 onward, and he was promoted to be the lead announcer in October of 2022 before shifting to the SmackDown brand. While Patrick was liked personally, there had been a feeling for some time that he was not the right person for the role. WWE initially put Michael Cole back on the team with internal hope that it would be able to steer Patrick in the right direction. Earlier, on January 10th, PW Insider Elite reported that, in a quote, there was some in the company watching to see how Kevin Patrick does on SmackDown without Michael Cole steering the ship. There is a feeling in some circles that Patrick really needs to step up as an announcer in the months ahead if he wants to maintain that position. PW Insider is told that Patrick had been set to travel to SmackDown this week in Florida, and it was obviously a last-minute decision. Now, that earlier report on January 10th about, there was a feeling in some circles that Patrick really needs to step up as an announcer, that was clearly a statement directed towards Kevin Patrick. And earlier this week, it was announced that he was removed as the lead commentator for SmackDown, and then all of a sudden they released him. Which, honestly, to me, man, look, I'm going to be brutally honest about Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was not good in the lead role for SmackDown. He's just not good in a lead role for any, commentary, in WWE. He just wasn't that good. I thought he didn't have a really good enthusiastic voice. I thought his voice, to me, just sounded way too, I hate being that guy to say this, but way too pretty. And it didn't really give you that, just that underground, just cool feel that, maybe a Michael Cole, and yes, Michael Cole nowadays, I respect Michael Cole more, and his commentary has improved drastically. He didn't give you that Michael Cole / Jim Ross type feel. He just didn't, and it didn't work well. He didn't give you that Mauro Ranallo uniqueness. The problem that Kevin Patrick had on commentary was he did not have the uniqueness that separated himself from all the other commentators that went before him. So guys like Michael Cole, guys like Mauro Ranallo, guys like Jim Ross. You get what I'm saying? He didn't really utilize that role very well, and he didn't do a pretty good job. But I will say this: them releasing Kevin Patrick, I thought was a little bit messed up. it's one thing because I wanted him to be removed off of commentary, but I didn't want him to lose his job. Someone losing their job is never a good thing. And it sucks for Kevin Patrick because, again, I guarantee you Kevin Patrick really tried to take his role seriously, but it just didn't work out. And that report earlier on January 10th by PW Insider was clearly information leaked by the WWE that was sent directly towards Kevin Patrick's way. Now, where does Kevin Patrick go on from now? He's no longer with the company. I do believe Kevin Patrick will find work. 100%. The wrestling business right now is super healthy that he is able to find work. Whether that is TNA, of course, Tom Phillips currently works with TNA. Is AEW a likely landing spot? We do not know. I doubt it. But TNA is not a bad spot whatsoever. So we're going to have to wait and see what he does. But by all means, I did not want this guy to get fired of all things. And everybody was shocked that, Kevin Patrick got released from the company. I was shocked as well. I'm like, damn. We all wanted him to be removed from the position, not to be fired. Like, we didn't want him to be fired. We just wanted him to be removed from the position or maybe move in a minor backstage role. So this news came definitely, this news was very unexpected, to say the least, regarding Kevin Patrick. But hopefully Kevin Patrick will find work elsewhere because, again, losing a job absolutely sucks and, nobody should ever go through that. But WWE at the end of the day is a business. Now, the other question that we need to ask ourselves is, who is going to be the lead commentator for SmackDown? Who is going to be the lead commentator? We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Are they just going to bring back Michael Cole for the time being? Or are they going to maybe bring back a guy like Mauro Ranallo if Mauro Ranallo is up for the job? We're going to have to wait and see. Again, the Mauro Ranallo stuff is just pure speculation on my end. But again, I would be absolutely, happy if they brought back Mauro Ranallo because, of course, Triple H is running the ship in WWE right now. But those are my thoughts on Kevin Patrick and his release from the WWE. All right, we're going to be talking about Kazuchika Okada. Of course, Kazuchika Okada is set to finish up with New Japan Pro Wrestling, as by January 31st, he is set to be a free agent with the company. And there's a lot of rumors about Kazuchika Okada and where he is going to potentially land. I'm going to give you guys the not the step-by-step, but really all of the details regarding Kazuchika Okada based off of what Fightful is reporting. Now, Fightful reported that Kazuchika Okada is set to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling. Actually, the news was broken by New Japan themselves. They tweeted out a statement that Kazuchika Okada was set to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling. In a report by Fightful on January 18th, Kazuchika Okada is leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling according to the company and the man himself. NJPW announced today that the legendary performer was finishing up with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and on January 31st, when his contract is up. It will end a historic run that includes 7 world championships, and he's actually still the never open-weight 6-man tag team champions, along with Tomohiro Ishii and Hiroshi Tanahashi, which I believe he dropped those titles recently. I believe it was either he dropped them or vacated them. I do not know, but from what it looks like right now, he's no longer a part of the 6-man tag team champions. New Japan Pro Wrestling sources had heard very recently that Okada and New Japan officials had a meeting to discuss their future together, and by the end of the conversation, it was clear that Okada was set to finish up with the company. The announcement still surprised several that Fightful has spoken to, as they expected it to be next week. However, they are told that the departure is an amicable one, and that the door is likely always remaining open for Okada, and there doesn't appear to be any ill will. New Japan sources that Fightful has spoken to said that they knew that was a reality they'd be facing, but they were confident in their ability to cultivate and create new talent both in Japan and the United States. Earlier this month, AEW had been very hopeful that they'd land Okada, and ideas had been very much tossed around, but based on what they have heard, it is far too early to determine where he's actually going to land. WWE sources that Fightful has spoken to had not yet heard of any talks involving the two sides, but they expected it to be at least explored. The last that Fightful has heard from the WWE end of things was that they weren't sure if they would want to make the move over. Okada also mended fences with TNA this past weekend, and they were told that the experience appeared to be a positive one by many in the company. Fightful has been told that while AEW was definitely interested, things are far too early to tell. For those asking, Okada would not be able to work the Royal Rumble unless he has gained permission from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Okada has main evented 8 Wrestle Kingdom events and won 4 G1 Climax tournaments. So that was the first initial report that Fightful had reported based on Kazuchika Okada. Now, one thing is set in stone, and that is Kazuchika Okada is set to leave New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he is going to be a free agent come January 31st, which is only a couple of days away, by the way. But there was a lot of rumors this week based off of Kazuchika Okada, WWE, and NXT. And there was a lot of rumors on, Kazuchika Okada possibly going to NXT, and Fightful actually posted an update regarding that matter. Rumors are flying about Kazuchika Okada, and they are very premature. So Fightful has completely debunked the reports of Kazuchika Okada. Early Tuesday, rumors emerged that Okada would be headed to the WWE and possibly appearing on the NXT brand first, citing sources from New Japan Pro Wrestling. However, Fightful sources close to New Japan Pro Wrestling said that is not the situation as they know it, at least as of right now. It was reiterated that Okada seems early in his process. One WWE higher-up said that, quote-unquote, that would be news to us at this point. And multiple sources on the NXT staff said that they've heard nothing of the sort at this point. In addition, numerous people that Fightful has talked to within the AEW believe that they very much are in the running to land Kazuchika Okada. To reiterate, anything could happen between now and the time Okada makes the decision, but Fightful has been told by sources connected to Okada, AEW, and WWE that this appears to be very premature. So a lot of the rumors that you heard regarding Okada about him possibly having his sights set on WWE, and if he does go to WWE, from what it looks like, he's going to be going straight down to NXT. Personally, they are debunked by Fightful. Okada has yet to make a decision on where he wants to go, and I'm going to say this right here, right now. When it comes to Okada, if Okada goes to the WWE and he goes straight down to NXT, in hindsight, you would understand why people would be upset, because Okada is a big star in Japan, and you really want to treat him like a big deal. But you can also make the argument that Shinsuke Nakamura went through NXT. Bobby Roode went through NXT. Samoa Joe went through NXT. Kevin Steen, a.k.a. Kevin Owens, went through NXT. They went through NXT, but at the time it was a very different NXT. The black and gold NXT is completely different than the NXT that we get now. And Okada going to NXT, in my opinion, I don't know. I don't think that'd be a great decision. Now, in hindsight, you have guys like AJ Styles that were thrusted straight to the main roster. They never went to NXT. And in multiple interviews, AJ Styles has stated that, I wish I went through NXT to learn the WWE style and to learn the WWE production way of doing things, which that is a very, very, very valid argument to make. And when it comes to Okada, the thing is, he doesn't really need NXT. But at the same time, I think WWE would want Okada to learn the WWE way of doing things, because they have their own style that they follow. And maybe they can give Okada maybe private lessons on how to, look at the hard cam, all that type of stuff. But when it comes to NXT, I think that is a little bit far-fetched, but I would understand why they would want to put him in NXT for a short amount of time. Now, where is he going to land? Is he going to land with WWE? Is he going to land with AEW? These are interesting questions that we need to ask ourselves. I'm not going to sit here and say, he's going to be treated better in one place and he's going to be treated like shit in the other place. If anything, if he goes to AEW, I think he's going to be treated like a big deal. Much like Will Ospreay, Ospreay is going to be treated as a big deal. AEW currently right now are in the running to land Mercedes Moné as well. They've signed Will Ospreay, even though he's still finishing up dates with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but they've signed Will Ospreay and he's guaranteed to show up in AEW next month. Mercedes Moné is still a free agent, and I believe, her contract is officially up, I believe, next month. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or she is currently a free agent right now. Mercedes Moné currently is, in the running for AEW. AEW is in the running for Mercedes Moné. And I guarantee you, with the improvements, the little baby steps and the little improvements that AEW is making in the women's division, I think it's pretty obvious that if they bring Mercedes Moné, they are going to make Mercedes Moné as the focal point of that women's division. End off. Nobody else. Fuck Baker, fuck everybody else. They are going to make Mercedes Moné the focal point because they know how big of a deal Mercedes Moné can be. And the benefit that Mercedes Moné can bring if she goes to AEW. So when it comes to Kazuchika Okada, he'd be treated very well in AEW. Even though the AEW audience knows who Kazuchika Okada is, I think he'd be treated like a legitimate main eventer. That doesn't mean he's going to go straight after the AEW World Championship. People have this perception that once they sign a big free agent, they're going to thrust him immediately to the world title. No, they're going to do a little bit of build-up. And that's what they need to do. That's what they're going to do with Will Ospreay, and that's what I assume they're going to be doing with Kazuchika Okada. They did that with Jay White. He did get a title match. Jay White is in a much different position right now, but, at least he's doing stuff. But AEW is not a bad option for Kazuchika Okada. But we have seen Kazuchika Okada in AEW already. We've seen him in AEW. I wouldn't be mad that he showed up in AEW. I think he is set to go to AEW. But WWE, let's look at WWE. This stage of the game, people are saying he'd get buried by the WWE. Look, if Vince McMahon was still running the organization, if he was still running things in creative, Vince McMahon would absolutely treat him like dog shit. They would probably book him just as bad as TNA booked Okada all those years ago. Remember Vince Russo they put Okada in a freaking mask. You remember that? Vince Russo, oh my God. Vince Russo, TNA. People talk greatly about TNA, and trust me, TNA does hold a special place in my heart, but at the same time, they did a lot of stupid shit. They did a lot of stupid shit, and Okada was one of them. But WWE now is a different company. The way we look at B shows, we look at shows like Elimination Chamber and Backlash, those are no longer generic pay-per-views. Those are international mega shows that we get nowadays. WWE, their motto right now, and this is cold, hard facts, and I don't care if anybody disagrees with me, and it is great business on their front, their whole motto is global fucking domination. That is their motto. That is WWE's motto right now. And if they land a guy like Kazuchika Okada, you can make the argument that the casual audience does not know who Kazuchika Okada is. And I would definitely agree with you with that. But WWE, with the resources that they have, with the resources that WWE has right now, they can figure out a way to introduce Kazuchika Okada to the casual audience. They can figure out a way to do it because they have the resources to do it. AEW has the resources to do it, but they do things very differently down in AEW. AEW is like, okay, let's bring this guy down here. You already know who he is. That is Okada. In WWE, they will literally give you video packages after video packages after video packages on Kazuchika Okada. And very well-produced video packages on Kazuchika Okada, introducing you who he is and why he is coming into the WWE. Look at the way that they're treating Shinsuke Nakamura right now. Shinsuke Nakamura is doing much better work now than he was doing a couple of years ago with, under Vince McMahon. Kazuchika Okada could easily be successful in the WWE. If you're one of those people on the internet saying that Kazuchika Okada, if he goes to the WWE, he's going to be buried, clearly you are not following WWE in this day and age, because this is a very different WWE than it was 2 years ago. WWE is a completely different organization right now. And if they land Okada, that'd be a great move for Okada. I think he'd be very successful. I think he would be very successful. Anywhere he goes, if it's WWE or AEW, they will know the value that they have in a guy like Kazuchika Okada. So those are my thoughts on him. All right, moving on. We're going to be talking about the Royal Rumble. This is going to be our final topic on the entire WrestleHavoc podcast. The Royal Rumble is going to be taking place tomorrow. It's going to be taking place in Tropicana Field, and I'm going to be giving you guys a preview and predictions for the Royal Rumble. And honestly, man, the Royal Rumble is a show I'm very excited about. I am very excited about what we are possibly going to be seeing in the Royal Rumble. Let's go through this card real quick. For the United States Championship, the U.S. title is on the line, as Logan Paul will be defending his title against Kevin Owens. I think this match is going to be a great match. You guys already know my thoughts on Logan Paul's in-ring work. I think his in-ring work is phenomenal. And him being the United States champion, a lot of people crap on Logan Paul, and I would understand that. But if you really think about it, they want to get that mainstream notoriety. So that is why Logan Paul is currently the United States champion. And that is the way WWE does business. But when it comes to Logan Paul and Kevin Owens, who's going to be winning this match, I think the match is going to be great, but I do not see Kevin Owens winning the United States Championship. We're not going to be seeing the new face of America once again. Kevin Owens is going to lose this match, and Logan Paul is going to be retaining. I think this match is going to be a great opener for the Royal Rumble event. If there's one match that you want to have a great opening match, it is Logan Paul and Kevin Owens. But I do think Logan Paul is going to be retaining the U.S. title, and he's going to drop that title till WrestleMania. WrestleMania is when he's going to drop that title, and I would assume he's going to drop that title to LA Knight because they've been teasing an LA Knight match for a while now, and I would assume an LA Knight and Logan Paul match is definitely the way to go for WrestleMania. We have the undisputed Universal Championship match as Roman Reigns defends his title in a fatal four-way as he defends his title against AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and LA Knight. Yeah, I think this match is going to be a great match. Now, there was a lot of speculation and talk about, how this match, would be booked and whether or not Roman Reigns could drop the undisputed titles in this match. I do not think Roman Reigns will drop his undisputed titles on this show. I think it's very foolish and stupid for a guy like Roman Reigns to drop the undisputed title because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is coming back and you want to book a Roman Reigns versus The Rock match at WrestleMania, in which we all know the match that should happen at WrestleMania, and that is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns too. That is the match that we should be seeing at WrestleMania. 100%. That is the match that we should be seeing at WrestleMania. Now, in terms of The Rock, we do not know when that match is going to be taking place. There's rumors that it could possibly happen at the Elimination Chamber. That is really still up in the air. Now, The Rock, I believe, went on Stephen A. Smith's show and basically stated, if we're going to be doing that match, we want that match to be the biggest WrestleMania of all time if we do that match. Now, he didn't point to when that would happen. Some people are speculating that it could possibly be next year's WrestleMania, but we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But as of this four-way match, Roman Reigns is going to be retaining his title end off. I do not see Roman Reigns dropping this title, getting pinned in a four-way, or dropping his title not getting pinned in this four-way. It is a very stupid idea for Roman Reigns to drop the undisputed title as we head on to the road to WrestleMania. So Roman Reigns is going to be retaining. We have the Women's Royal Rumble match. Some of the participants that were announced for the Women's Royal Rumble match were Bayley, Becky Lynch, Nia Jax, Bianca Belair, Maxine Dupree, Ivy Nile, and 24 more women to be announced or to be surprise entrants in the Rumble. Now, there's a lot of talk about Mercedes, and Mercedes, of course, is a free agent, one of the hottest free agents in all of wrestling. Fightful actually put out an update regarding Mercedes Moné, and they stated, and I quote, "When Fightful asked a WWE source about the possibility of Mercedes Moné in the Royal Rumble, one source said, and I quote, 'Well, we're not really interested in the contract tampering with her, so I doubt it.'" That is very interesting. We're not really interested in contract tampering with her. Contract tampering with her. Now, that sounds a little bit hypocritical because WWE themselves try to do contract tampering with guys like Adam Cole and Swerve Strickland, and I think Keith Lee as well. Swerve, I believe, even confirmed, they try to contract. They try to tamper my contract. But they're saying, hey, we don't want to contract tamper with her, so we're not going to do it. Could that mean that Mercedes is on her way to AEW? We do not know. We do not know. But do I see Mercedes Moné joining the Royal Rumble or making her return at the Royal Rumble? No, I do not. So don't get your hopes up. I know I said the same thing regarding CM Punk. Look, do not get your hopes up about CM Punk and Survivor Series. But if it does happen, I'll gladly go on this show and say that I was wrong. But do not, and I repeat, do not get your hopes up. Now, who do I think is going to be winning this Royal Rumble, this Women's Royal Rumble? I think there's only one logical choice, or two logical choices, depending on what they want to do, because they also have the Elimination Chamber. It's either Becky Lynch or Bayley. Bayley, because she has the storyline going on with Damage Control, and basically Damage Control are secretly, let's be honest, if you guys have been watching SmackDown recently, they're basically planning on secretly whacking, if this was a Mafia movie, if this was The Sopranos, they're secretly going to whack Bayley out of the group. That is what I see happening. But you also got on the Raw side, Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch having a segment a couple of weeks ago on Raw, basically telling you that they're going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. They basically told you they're going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. They could go either way. They could have this go on at the Elimination Chamber, or they could have this go on at the Royal Rumble. Any way, I'm fine with it. In any way, shape, or form, I am fine with it. But who would I see winning this Royal Rumble? I think the most logical choice is Bayley. And in terms of the Elimination Chamber, I do see them doing a number one contendership for Rhea Ripley's title at the Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia. That is exactly what I see happening, but it could go either way. It could either be Becky Lynch or it could either be Bayley. But my pick, I choose Bayley to win the Women's Royal Rumble. In terms of the Men's Royal Rumble, and this is the major match, this Men's Royal Rumble is stacked, and the possibilities are endless. If there's one thing that WWE did very well in the build-up to this Royal Rumble, is they created the perception that anybody could win the Royal Rumble by having them have segments on the show, cutting up promos saying, no, you're not going to win the Royal Rumble, I'm going to win the Royal Rumble. That is exactly what WWE is doing in terms of the Men's Royal Rumble match. And they did the exact same thing with the Women's Royal Rumble match. So that is great. The build-up for this Royal Rumble has been tremendous. But in the Men's Royal Rumble, the listed men that are going to be involved in this match are CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre, Gunther, who is the current Intercontinental Champion, Chad Gable, Otis, Akira Tozawa, Kofi Kingston, Damian Priest, who is currently Senior Money in the Bank, and 19 more men to be announced or to be decided. Who's going to win the Royal Rumble? There's only 3 logical choices to win the Royal Rumble match. Only 3 logical choices to win this Royal Rumble match. And either one of them can be right. Because you could either work, you can work out the build as the way that you want it. Because you also have the Elimination Chamber. The only 3 logical men to win this Royal Rumble are CM Punk, who is the more likely to win the Royal Rumble because he just came back. Cody Rhodes, who won last year's Royal Rumble, but of course he's slated, hopefully, if the rumors are true, hopefully if the rumors are not true, hopefully if, he can win the Royal Rumble and face off against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, because that should be your main event of WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns should be your main event of WrestleMania. End off. No buts or ifs. No triple threat match. No match The Rock. None of that. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Night 2. That is your main event. Period. None of this triple threat bullshit, bro. You got the Vince McMahon mentality booking in your heads. Stop, please. And the last choice is the current Intercontinental Champion, Gunther. Gunther right now is having a career of a lifetime. He's the current Intercontinental Champion, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. And in my opinion, one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions that we've seen in recent memory. And yes, I'm not exaggerating when I say that because Gunther's fucking awesome. He's one of my favorite acts on WWE television right now. But it's interesting. CM Punk, if he wins the Royal Rumble, he faces off against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. But when it comes to Seth Rollins, we do not know the severity of his injury. But this past Monday on Raw, he did not vacate his World Heavyweight title. Seth Rollins said he's going to go to WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion. Could that mean that CM Punk could face Seth Rollins after all at WrestleMania? We're going to have to wait and see. Another thing. Gunther. He had that segment with Seth Rollins this past Monday on Raw. Basically saying he's going to win the Royal Rumble and he's going to take your title. So could this be a situation of WWE changing plans for the Royal Rumble, and instead of having CM Punk go after Seth Rollins, it's Gunther winning the Royal Rumble? And, basically going after Seth Rollins. We're going to have to wait and see. Or are they going to go for the Cody Rhodes route? And they're going to have Cody Rhodes challenge Roman Reigns once again at WrestleMania. Now, keep in mind, Cody Rhodes, in order for him to challenge Roman Reigns again at WrestleMania, he does not have to win the Royal Rumble. Because if you look at Booking 101, you also got the Elimination Chamber, as I've stated multiple times. You got the Elimination Chamber. So clearly, WWE could do something in regards to the Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia, because that is going to be a big show. That is going to be a big show. So we're going to have to wait and see what they do. But my pick to win the Royal Rumble, I think it's obvious. It's not going to be Cody, and it's not going to be Gunther. I think it's going to be CM Punk. CM Punk is going to be the guy that wins the Royal Rumble and goes off to challenge Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. I do believe that the Seth Rollins match is still intact, and it's still going to happen because that is a money match to happen. Now, in terms of Seth Rollins regarding his injury, I, for one, am with the argument that, if they hadn't booked the Jinder Mahal match, none of this would have happened. Now, I'm not blaming Jinder Mahal. I'm not blaming Seth Rollins. I'm not blaming the WWE. Because, again, accidents happen in wrestling. That's just the nature of the business. But, again, I'm just saying, if WWE hadn't booked that Jinder Mahal match, we wouldn't be in the mess that we are right now. We wouldn't be in the mess that we are right now. But in terms of the Royal Rumble, I mean, Seth Rollins is clearly going to basically, fight through his injury, and he's still going to show up at WrestleMania. But at what costs? At what costs? Could that jeopardize the potential CM Punk match? We're going to have to wait and see. But I still have hopes that we're going to be getting Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at WrestleMania in the main event of Night 1. That's my hope right there because, again, the presumed main event for Night 1 is Punk versus Rollins, and the Night 2 main event should be and has to be Cody versus Roman. That is what it needs to be. So my pick to win the Men's Royal Rumble is CM Punk. CM Punk will be winning the 2024 Royal Rumble match. But those are my preview and predictions for tomorrow night's Royal Rumble match. I think it's going to be a great show. I'm very excited to see what's going to be going on. In light of all the news and events that have transpired this week, hopefully we have a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to this show. And I think the show is going to be great. I love the unpredictability that the show brings. And it's going to be no different tomorrow night on Peacock when it comes to the Royal Rumble. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast, the new and improved WrestleHavoc podcast from January 26, 2023. We talked a lot. We went over an hour and 20 minutes on this show, and we talked a lot on this show. My plans for this podcast is I want this main WrestleHavoc podcast show to be every single Thursday. I am still contemplating on whether or not I want the show to be live or I want the show to be taped. And from what it looks like right now, I think the best route for me to really grow this thing is to really put out this show live. So hopefully maybe next week's show will be live, but we're going to have to wait and see. I will be covering the Royal Rumble, so be on the lookout right here on the WrestleHavoc channel for the Royal Rumble. I'm also planning on doing a audio commentary video building up to the Royal Rumble, giving you guys my thoughts on the Royal Rumble in a more professional capacity. So I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on that. Hopefully I'll put it up and work on it as we head towards the Royal Rumble tomorrow. But we got a lot of things. The WrestleHavoc brand, I want this brand to grow. I want this to be a big deal. And I want to grow by leaps and bounds. And that is my goal for this channel in 2024. I really want to break through this year in terms of content. And also, when it comes to WrestleHavoc Daily will be coming back Monday. WrestleHavoc Daily is from Mondays through Fridays. I didn't have a WrestleHavoc Daily this week, considering all the news that has been coming up back and forth, and I really wanted to compile all of this information all in one show because God knows, man, there was a lot of news that came out this week. And I'll also split a lot of the topics in clips from this podcast, and I'll also upload it on the channel as well. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast from January 26th, 2024. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I'm going to look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all later. Peace.